Osama bin Laden is synonymous with evil, a man whose fingerprints are all over some of the most heinous terrorist acts in recent history, including the worst of all. President Bush has declared the United States will hunt down Osama bin Laden wherever he may be, however long it may take. And the president warns that any country harboring bin Laden can expect the wrath of America. Osama bin Laden was shaped by the same forces that mold all of us: family, religion, and culture. But in his case, the end result is a zealot steeped in religious fervor and with enough charisma to convince others to enlist in his holy war. Bin Laden rules an empire dedicated to spreading terror and remaking the world in his image. He is one of the world's most notorious outlaws. He is also a man of sizable wealth and sophistication. Osama bin Laden, born into privilege, chose to lead the life of a fugitive. Over the last decade, the tall, gaunt figure has cast a dark shadow over many parts of the world as the alleged sponsor of acts of terrorism that included the bombing of 2 U.S. embassies in Africa. He is now said to be sworn to a global holy war, and he seems to have the means to strike at those he considers enemies of Islam in any part of the world. At the beginning of the 20th century, Yemen, on the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, was home to the bin Laden family. The region of Hadramaut, where they lived, was steeped in biblical and Quranic history. Hadramaut was known as the Manhattan of the desert because of its cluster of ancient skyscrapers made of mud, sand, and grass. Like many in Yemen in the 1930s, Mohammed bin Laden was not a wealthy man. He started out as a laborer in construction, but in the neighboring kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there was opportunity. Soon, millions of dollars would pour in from the oil business, and there would be a boom in building. Mohammed bin Laden was determined to make his fortune there.
So he picked up his family and went there and got in on the ground floor of that construction boom, and eventually developed his business into the bin Laden Group, a $5 billion construction industry.
Mohammed bin Laden was a devout Sunni Muslim and proved to be a brilliant businessman. He'd won the confidence of King Abdul Aziz with his work on the Saudi royal palaces. He was then rewarded with a contract to renovate the mosque at Mecca. Millions of Muslims have made the pilgrimage to Mecca to worship Allah and visit the birthplace of his prophet Muhammad. Work on the mosque was a great honor for bin Laden.
Mecca and Medina are the holiest places in Islam. They hold really tremendous symbolic and religious significance to Muslims.
Mohammed bin Laden's work made him rich. He also became the patriarch of a family that would include more than 50 children. There were some 20 sons. In 1957, the family took up residence in the Saudi capital of Riyadh. It was here that Osama bin Laden was born. He was the only son of Muhammad's fourth official wife, a Syrian woman. Having non-Saudi parents set Osama apart in a country where ancestry was of great importance. Still, the family became part of the inner circle of the Saudi court and enjoyed many of the privileges accorded royalty.
They were the establishment. They were as much a part of the establishment as one could be not being a member of the royal family.
Like many prominent Saudis, the bin Ladens were well-traveled. When going abroad, Osama's mother opted for a chic wardrobe by Chanel rather than traditional Saudi robes. But for all his worldliness and commercial success, Mohammed bin Laden never gave up his commitment to work on places of worship. He said he felt blessed to be awarded the contract for the restoration of the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, the most sacred place for Muslims outside of Saudi Arabia. But in 1968, the guiding force of the bin Laden family was gone. Mohammed bin Laden was killed when his helicopter crashed in a desert sandstorm in Saudi Arabia. his family inherited his financial and industrial empire. Osama, one of the heirs to the bin Laden fortune, went on to study management and economics at King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah.
He was being put into the direction of the family business, construction and renovation, road building.
And like other wealthy young Saudis, Osama reportedly took trips to Beirut, Lebanon. In the 1970s, it was a place to have a good time and indulge in vices forbidden in the more conservative Saudi society.
There are people who say, and people who should know, that he used to take trips to Beirut and go to nightclubs and be a drinker and chase women and so on as a teenager.
But by 1975, Osama was already deeply influenced by the Islamic scholars at his university, like Sheikh Abdullah Azzam. They were preaching that the salvation of Saudi youth could only be achieved by a return to the strict values of Islamic teaching. While he was still in school, his family put him to work on a project that kindled a new spiritual fervor in him.
He was given a renovation job to do on 2 very holy mosques in Saudi Arabia. And in the process of doing those renovations and running it for the family business, he really, according to these friends, found Islam in a very deep way, in a way he had never found it before as a young man.
But religion would also be a source of great upheaval in Osama's life, even as it was igniting passions throughout the region. In 1975, King Faisal was assassinated, and Saudi Arabia was thrown into turmoil over succession and conflicting religious values. The fundamentalists blamed the chaos on the sinful influence of the West. In Iran, in February of 1979, the Ayatollah Khomeini led a successful Islamic revolution. He overthrew the Shah and held Americans hostage in Tehran for months. Followers hailed him for his victory over the forces of the West. During the late 1970s, the mosque at Mecca was stormed by Islamic radicals in protest against the Saudi royal family, who were seen as the very symbol of corruption by Muslim fundamentalists. Then on December 26, 1979, an event occurred that shook the Islamic world to its core. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, a Muslim country run by a pro-communist regime.
And there was a call for jihad, for Muslims everywhere, to come to the aid of the Muslims in Afghanistan who had been set upon by this evil power.
The United States soon entered the Afghan conflict, sending aid, arms, and the CIA. President Jimmy Carter was so offended by the Soviet invasion that he called for a boycott of the 1980 Olympics to be held in Moscow.
To me, it's unconscionable